right, everybody, welcome back. It's another Sunday here, the Diamond Roundup with Sam Torres and Anthony Hartwig. And, despite Mother Nature's best efforts, we got some baseball and softball in this week. A lot more softball actually than baseball. There were a lot of softball games going on this week, and there's also some exciting news coming out on in the softball world. And Anthony, why don't you talk to about what's going on with that?
Well, it's not tournament time yet. We still have last week of the regular season, but the seeding is out, and the brackets for the Northeast District are out. So we know the path to a district championship and the path for a state championship. Really, for all these teams, it is locked and loaded. They have to finish the week out of regular season play, but they know where they have to go. I always thought it was weird, Sam, when you release the brackets before the season's over, because now, like this last week, it's like you're trying to balance thinking about tournament time because you have the bracket in your hands, but you're also like, we got to finish out our conference record. We got to make sure we win the conference. It's a lot to kind of balance. It's always weird when the brackets came out. A week or two before the end of the season. Imagine if the NFL came out with a playoff schedule like 2 weeks before the season was over.
Yeah, I mean, I immediately go to do people start resting people? You know what I
Right.
mean? So the arms and the innings and that sort of thing, not as much an issue in softball. And that's only from the rules standpoint. Whether or not they regulate the arms in softball, there's still, you still have to watch these young ladies' arms and how they're throwing. And a lot of it, I think, comes down to, like you were saying, Anthony, how much do you care about the conference title? How much do you care about the division title? Once you've got your tournament seed, it's like the table is set. You're just waiting for dinner to start.
The sad thing is we've seen this happen before many times in softball and baseball this last week and now 2 weeks for the baseball because baseball is 1 week behind softball. The brackets come out and you see, this team that's now in conference game is probably going to play us in a sectional final or maybe meet us in a district semi. Do we really want to play them in a couple of days in a regular season game right before we play them in the tournament? No, we don't. And you'll see that game get X'd out of nowhere. Like, we're just not going to play that game. We're going to go find someone else. And, obviously, well, we all want to see that matchup, but it's always sad to see, like, hey, we're just not going to play that game anymore because we don't want a second matchup with them in the tournament.
Yeah, and both on the baseball and the softball side, it's funny as we start talking about the tournaments. And again, those come out this week for softball. Softball 1 week ahead of baseball. Baseball's coming out next week. If you look at the schedules, but trust me and Anthony have been looking at the schedules as we've put together this week's Power 20 and trying to figure out who beat who and who they beat and that sort of deal. One of the things I noticed is there are some teams out there with 8-9 games on the season, whereas you got other teams that are well above 20. With these tournament times coming out, it's really funny to see. Not funny, I guess it's more sad than anything to see some of these teams that, I don't know that they're going to get 15 season games in.
Now, all you have to do is go into the seedings website where you can see where all the teams are seeded, and there are several softball teams that had to submit their record this week. That as of Wednesday, when they had to submit, had 7 games in, 5-2. I saw some 5-2s, I saw some 4-4s, and it's like, well, Mother Nature hit them hard, and I know some of the Ashtabula schools are in that boat where they got hit harder weather than we did up here in the Youngstown area. I should say down here in the Youngstown area. So yeah, they're in that situation, kind of like a lot of teams, almost every team was last year, where last year's spring was so bad that we just had so many teams play maybe 13 or 14 regular season games if they were lucky. And then, obviously if you're fit, you can play whatever you want because you have turf or Edison or Louisville. Those were the ones that always, they got 20 games in no matter what. But for most everybody else, last year was a brutal spring. And they had to miss, 7 or 8 games just because they just ran out of time to play them.
Yeah, I think the lowest number I've seen on baseball or softball side, I can't remember the team off the top of my head right now. I want to say maybe it's Cheney, is sitting at about 7 games for the year. It's really unfortunate for those, especially when you talk about these seniors who already had one season canceled due to COVID. So, they're not even going to get, we knew they weren't going to get 4 full seasons, but these kids aren't going to get 3 full seasons. Some of these kids might not get 2. Like it's just really unfortunate. But you're right. Fitch figured out the answer, and nobody knows more about that answer than the guy that's joining us right now. That's the man, Ty Bartell, joining the show. Ty, what's going on today, my friend?
Not much, man. Just a little bit of a busy tail end of the week after Mother Nature knocked out some games earlier in the week. We were able to get at least myself, I was able to get quite a bit of softball in the past couple of days too. So,
Sam, I don't know if you noticed, me, Ty, and Matt Marr went down to North Ridgeville and LaGrange and just pounded out a lot of softball games on Saturday for that previous tournament that a lot of our teams were in. So me and Ty and Matt, we all had some fun down there in North Ridgeville and LaGrange with a lot of great softball.
4 of our YSN teams were covered by us 3 over the weekend too. Well, just yesterday, really. But yeah, a lot of good competition. And you know what? Talking with a lot of people down there too, and all the people that kind of run and go in and out will say, and they'll stand by it, this is one of, if not the best softball tournament in the state of Ohio with the amount of talent that comes through there.
It would have been better if it wasn't the weather, because a lot of the teams that were coming from really far away, they expect 2 days of games. So they're going to come down Friday, stay the night Friday, and then play on Saturday as well. When Friday got rained out, a lot of those far away teams said, you know what, we're not going to come all the way down there for just 1 day a game. It's too much of a drive. So we saw some teams that were supposed to be in this tournament, like Olentangy Liberty, who's a great softball team, just for example, back out in the last couple of days and then had to be replaced. But it's an invite-only tournament, so you know that those directors are trying to get the best softball teams they possibly can from the state.
And a couple of the directors too even mentioned that a lot of times you'll see state champions from outside the state of Ohio that come into play in that tournament too. So a lot of big name talent that comes through that tournament too.
The biggest team that I think our teams played, Ty, that Steel team that Canfield played, was ranked 10th in Division I, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and that just shows how many talented teams go through there. And that was my first time ever being up in that LaGrange Community Park. And boy, oh boy, what a nice complex that is with a lot of different softball fields. And just the talent that came through there. You got a lot of future college stars that were on those softball fields.
DJ Oakley, the Power 20 this week, to quote the road dog Jesse James. Oh, you didn't know? You better call somebody. He is absolutely on point. When that Power 20 comes out, I expect conversation, both positive and negative. I'm here for all the smoke. I can't wait. Listen, the computer did what the computer does, and that sometimes makes people feel unhappy. But what you guys were talking about, with those weekend tournaments in particular, it's like a cross country race for broadcasters, because it's now. There's really not a lot of time to breathe. These girls that are getting through, and I think that's one of the more impressive things when these big teams go against each other. Iron sharpens iron, but they don't get a chance to cool off. Like, it's game right now. You got to use your pitching. We talked about how they don't necessarily regulate softball pitching, but you can't go out there and throw 400 pitches, whether it's overhand or underhand.
Well, you can if you're Katie McDonald, but not too many people can do it. I kid you not. Poland earlier this season played a game Friday and 2 games Saturday. Katie pitched all 3 of them. And at the end of the day, it was almost 400 pitches in less than 24 hours.
And you know what? We've seen a lot of girls like that. Faith Porter from Hoban, Sydney Watts from Fitch. It's more or less of the kids are able to, and they're able to do it without experiencing pain, and they're able to keep on chugging along too. It's a process too. And Tommy Watts will even say, and he actually, I saw him breaking it down a little bit as well, just the amount of the process that goes to it of the workout regimens too, the rest periods too. It's all kind of technical and laid out sports sciencey stuff. But it just goes to show the future of athletics and what holds for a lot of these high school athletes.
It might sound like a lot, but these travel tournaments, I'm telling you, if you've ever been to one, if they're winning, they're playing 5-6 games a day. So especially on Sunday, it's win or go, like it's bracket play. It's you play until you lose. So you could have a pitcher on a travel team that's pitching 4 or 5 games in a day just to win a championship at these travel tournaments.
Iron
Yeah,
sharpens iron, man.
I'll tell you what. We haven't gotten into our Power 20 yet, but one of the things I've been the most impressed with this year with softball in particular is the Power 20 in softball has been pretty consistent. The names that are on top are staying on top. Sometimes they're playing musical chairs a little bit, but they're all sitting at the same table. And I'll tell you what. If you gave me the entire Power 20, congratulations for getting in there. And all these teams are doing a great job. But if you give me the top 5 teams in our YSN Power 5, I would take those girls and I'd play anybody across the country. I'm pretty sure we're going undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see our superstar team and then go up against like a California, Texas, or Florida, where softball's so good in those states because they can play year round. So I would love to just kind of test ourselves, especially like if we went to Texas. I want to see Texas softball versus Ohio softball because we've seen South Carolina, we've seen the Mid-South, we've seen those teams go up against Ohio. I want to see Ohio, and then I want to say hey, bring in Texas, bring in Cali. Let's go. I'm confident.
He said, "Give me the deep South.
Give me that deep South."
Well,
bring Kelly Barnhill in the Florida Gators in.
It was already proven when the ladies from YSN, from our YSN network, went down to Myrtle Beach. The only thing that was sweet down there was the tea. They went down there and smacked those girls around. I think some of those softballs are still in the air. I mean, it's those we have really, really talented athletes right here on your sports network. It's the best. I'm telling you guys, it's the very best. Let's jump into some of these games for this week because we powered through these weather games and honestly, you got to be thankful for places like Fitch where you can get some games in and the weather is not going to. I mean, they're almost like the USPS: rain, sleet, or snow. Let the pitches go. I love it. I absolutely love it. Let's jump into some of these games from this week. And guess what, folks? We're starting on Monday. We're on Monday.
We're on track this time.
All right, we're starting off here on the baseball side. We got Warren G. Harding falling to Fitch 4-3. LeBray and Brookfield. LeBray going on top there, 14-0, and LeBray has picked right back up after a couple losses last week. Really getting it going again. Mooney going 12-0 over Youngstown East. Edison going to beat Claymont 8-1. You got Crestview 9-4 over Garfield. Newton Falls getting a 12-1 win over Liberty, and the Southern Local. They're going to get one 9-4 over East Palestine over on the baseball side. As we head over to the softball side, and Fitch does what Fitch does. 18-0 over Warren G. Was this one of the games you got to see this week, Ty?
Yeah, that was Sid's perfect game, second one on the season. And just another dominant display, 14 strikeouts in 5 innings, so only one batter that didn't fall by way of the K2, so almost a straight strikeout line too. It's just it goes to show that her ceiling is still way up here, and I don't even think she's touched her peak yet. Another thing I want to talk about touching their peak, the LeBray Vikings are a baseball team too, that another team where they're going to have all these kids back next year. They haven't even reached their peak yet. There's no way that they're even at their peak.
You just broke
they are one of the best teams in the area right now.
When I found out that Sydney Watt was a sophomore, I felt like I got to check a birth certificate because there's no way that you're that dominant and you're a sophomore and poor AAC for having to deal with this for 2 more years. And if I'm not mistaken, she hits a huge milestone this week as a sophomore that I think some seniors are still chasing right now.
Yeah, 500 strikeouts. Yeah, her 500th strikeout in her career. She wants to get to 1,000, and obviously she's well on her way right now. She's on pace for that. And I mean, I think what everyone needs to start discussing too, especially like for Fitch, like this is like a once in a generation type talent that comes through here. Like this is something special where she's going to set records that might not be broken for years.
Well, she is literally, like we talk about, and I've said it before, she can go anywhere in the country and play softball right now. And I was telling Sam before the show, not just D1, we're talking like any school, no one would pass up a 70-mile-an-hour rise ball with a changeup like hers now. And then you look at extra inning softball; they rank her as one of the top 20 pitchers in that class in the entire country.
Yeah.
So
And
that means, like, in the sophomore class, she's one of the best pitchers in the country, not just the state of Ohio, country. And they take ranking softball and extra inning softball very, very seriously. This is not like, hey, if you submit your stats, you'll be ranked. Like, extra inning softball, if you're on their list, you're doing something right.
Watts Bot 500. I love that. That is the best nickname I've heard so far. She is an absolute machine. But yeah, it's just incredible. And you know what? The thing is she's not even alone on our network, because as we get through some of these scores, we're going to talk about other girls that if this was NBA 2K, they'd be banned. Like, they would not be able to be played with on online. Like, it's crazy how good some of these girls are.
She's not even alone on her roster. Forget our YSN network. Just look at the Fitch roster. It's like Abigail Toth is batting 7th.
Tina Montgomery is batting 8th in that lineup and just cranked a grand slam the other day. I mean, it's amazing to say. And I mean, I just talked about all the softball teams in general. We have right now, realistically, I've said it, like, at least I'm saying 4 or 5 teams that can make a run to that state Final Four right now in the YSN family, if not even more than that. It's crazy how much talent there is softball wise in the area right now.
We almost swept the number 1 seeds in all divisions. Marlington got the 1 seed in Division 2 in the district, but other than that, Division 1 we're 1 seed, Division 2 we're the 2 seed with Canfield, 3 South Range got the 1 seed, and then 4 Western Reserve got the 1 seed. So we are across the board 1 seed, 1 seed, 1 seed, 1 seed.
Doing work and doing it at a high level over here, our YSN teams, no doubt.
So going over a couple more scores on Monday, we got Brookfield 17, LeBray 2, Garrettsville Garfield goes 7-2 over top of Crestview. Newton Falls is going to fall to Liberty 14-5, and Southern Local going to get the win here 10-2 over East Palestine. That is your Monday scoreboard, as we're going to head over to Tuesday. And we double check the day, and that's correct. as we head over here, and we're going to start off with the baseball side, Kirtland and Edgewood. This is a game I actually got to go broadcast myself. And Kirtland goes big time in this one. Kirtland is 10-1 over Edgewood. This is one that has huge implications on the CVC Valley division, because going into this game, Kirtland, Edgewood, Berkshire, they're all locked up at the top. Kirtland actually separates themselves this week by getting 2 wins over Edgewood. But it was an interesting game because, you see a 10-1 score like this. I think you always assume the team is not hitting. Kirtland made defensive plays that were unbelievable. Edgewood has had an unfortunate time at the plate this week. They have hit the ball a lot, just to the people's gloves, and it's one of those things. And I think it's one of those things that you start to see as the season progresses too. When kids start to get more sure in their gloves, the errors are going to go down, and those big time catches are going to be made. But I mean, nothing can be said. It's 10-1, and Kirtland gets the dub there.
Moving over there, proof of how close those 2 teams are, because when they played each other again, it was 2-1 Kirtland.
Yeah, in an absolute barn burner in that one. And that one's I believe that was the very next day at Kirtland. So you move over here, you got Canfield getting a big win over top of Boardman here, 9-3.
They did that against Gavin Hyde. And if you know anything about pitching in this area for baseball, Gavin Hyde is one of the best that we have on YSN. And to be able to swing the bats like Canfield did against him, obviously they know him pretty well. They've been seeing him a lot. But, I mean, I think Gary Niddle said it best in his kind of post-game interviews. They have so much respect for Gavin Hyde, and the way that they were able to work their counts, look for their pitches, and really find a way to get on base against Gavin Hyde and then find some timely hitting. Very impressed with Canfield's offense in this game.
It's like football, man. It's a game of inches too, and sometimes when that fastball is missing by just a couple inches, it makes all the difference too. And it was one of those days. But you also credit the Canfield lineup; they did what they needed to do. They worked the counts, they looked for their pitches, and when they got them, they did what they needed to do for them. And beating a very talented pitcher, like you said, Anthony, and Gavin Hyde, for a very big quality win inside the conference for the Cards.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of my favorite things in watching this year, there are pitchers out there that I call them corner chasers. They paint the corner. That's where they make their money. They're going to try and get you to go after a couple things on the outside that maybe they're not going to get a good part of the barrel on, or they're going to, in some cases get the hand, the handle on. I love watching a pitcher in that first and second inning try to figure out what they're going to do when that corner is not there. Because it's usually established pretty early by the umpire when you're not getting those, on a 2-2 count or a 1-2 count, those sort of things, or God forbid a 3-2, when those corners aren't happening. That's probably my favorite thing I've seen this year, is watching the pitchers kind of evolve in the middle of the game. Like, I can't get away with this anymore. I'm going to have to start getting closer to that meaty part of the plate that nobody wants to throw to. As we all right, moving on to Springfield. Springfield's going to go 3-1 over Mineral Ridge. You got United falling to Columbiana in a close one as they're fighting for the top spot in the conference there. 1-0, Columbiana coming out on top there.
This was first place of EBC on the line, and it lived up to the hype. Absolutely.
I mean, you put those two teams on any kind of diamond, and they shine their brightest too. United and Columbiana, they go together like bread and butter too. It's always a great matchup. It's never dull. It's never been a dull moment the last couple of years, and once again, those two deliver on the baseball diamond.
Moving on, we're going to go to another NE8 conference matchup that's going to matter big time, and that is those Lakeview Bulldogs, and it's a battle of the dogs, and Lakeview coming out on top.
The bigger dog, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
dog fight.
Lakeview has the bigger bite in this one as they go 6-3 and start to assert their place at the top of that NE8. I think Lakeview, I've said it, 3 weeks in a row now. Lakeview's the team to watch in the NE8. I think they've got a real shot at taking it this year. They got to get through a very, very tough team in South Range or get some help from one of these other teams. But the NE8 is a conference where the worst team can beat the best team, because that's how close they all are. So you never know what's going on in that conference.
Now Lakeview's in the driver's seat. I mean, I'm not going to spoil the rest of the scoreboard that we're going over, but they beat Poland again the next day. South Range fell to Hubbard the next day. So South Range now 2 games back. So Lakeview is kind of in that catbird seat now in the fact that they control their own destiny completely in the rest of this NE8.
And credit them. They've been able to find ways to win in a lot of close ball games too, especially down the stretch. And this is another example too. 3-run win over the Poland Bulldogs too, keeping it close where it was Poland. But again, Lakeview's really good in those close game scenarios. They have a lot of great pitching, and timely hitting is sometimes all you need.
Absolutely. As we're going to move on to Letonia falling to Lisbon here, 12-1. Struthers and Niles, that one is not reported in. South Range gets a 10-0 win on Hubbard. And this is a game that had a lot to do in the power rankings. Hubbard has 13 wins. So beating a team like Hubbard is going to give you point boosts in this computer system. And at this point in the season, that's what you really got to start talking about. It's not always how many teams you beat, it's who you beat and how many games they've won. And that's a big one to grab, as Hubbard has been on fire with 13 wins on the year.
Yeah, and Hubbard's one of the bigger teams in the NE8 too, so you get the Division II bonus points for beating them as well. Unlike if you beat Lakeview or Poland or Jefferson, I think they're all Division III in baseball. So beating Hubbard is one of those Division II teams in the NE8 that you get a little bit of extra points for as well.
Always looking for them point boosts.
That's what you got to get. You got to grab those point boosts wherever you can get them. Cardinal Mooney gonna get a point boost by beating a Division I Howland team 5-4 here. Grand Valley goes 12-0 over Conneaut. Garrettsville Garfield 3-1 over Crestview. LeBray 9-0 back on the horse, getting another win over Brookfield here. And how about this is another team that is beginning to rise like the Phoenix, and that's Warren JFK. Yep. Warren JFK has gotten a lot of wins in the last couple weeks. From the first week not making the power rankings to this week, they're on their way to becoming a potential big label team, a big emblem team. Warren JFK goes 12-2 over Southeast. Lowellville getting a dub over Western Reserve here, 4-2. And St. Ed's is going to beat Ursuline 8-1. And Springfield and Mineral Ridge is 14-2 as we head over to the softball side of things.
Yeah, and you'll notice that Springfield Mineral Ridge was a doubleheader, and Springfield was able to take both of those games from Mineral Ridge. Baseball doubleheaders are tough, man.
No doubt. And also tip your caps to Lakewood St. Ed's too. They got a phenomenal team over there, and they do a great job, no doubt.
Yeah, it's a huge school with huge athletes and a huge pool to pull from. So, you're going to get the best of the best when you're going out there. But as we talk about some of the best, I'm going to go right back to Ty here as it's Hoban over Highland in girls softball.
This was a scary game, too. I wasn't even sure if we were going to get it off, too. There was like that rain mist that was going on in the air, but the rain held off on this one, and the game was able to get off. And again, it was Faith Porter that put together a really good pitching performance, timely hitting from the Knights. Once again, gets a win over another quality opponent. And that's the thing with Hoban. They've scheduled a lot of quality opponents, and as you see, I don't want to spoil it later in the week. They've had to come up short against a couple of them. But what I've always said in these type of games, when you schedule it, and why it's so important to schedule like this before a tournament too, is because it gives you a chance. Now you have another week of the season to shore up some holes in the team too, maybe correct some things that you're seeing down the stretch right before tournament time. So it's a perfect time, perfect learning experience for this team. But in this case scenario, Hoban showed once again that pitching, when they have the pitching on, they can have the timely hitting, they can get the big wins.
Faith Porter is just an excellent pitcher. I love watching her go.
When she has that through ball going, man, it's one of the best too. And I mean, the way it starts and the way it finishes, it drops off the table like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Sydney Watts' rise ball all the time, but her drop ball for Faith Porter, that go off the table drop ball that goes boop, forces a lot of ground balls. She's not as much of a strikeout pitcher. You'll see her strikeout numbers. She's a little bit low, but that's because she forces so much weak contact with her drop ball.
Absolutely. And I mean, she can really command that circle, especially if runners are on as well. She does a good job of getting out of a lot of jams. And the thing is, she's just one of those type pitchers. When she gets in the groove too, if you get her, you got to get her early too. And when you have those opportunities, you need to strike, because once she gets into that groove, she doesn't usually get knocked out of it.
Yeah, moving right along, we're going to go here. Poland over Lakeview, another NE8 matchup that comes down to a very close score. It's going to be Poland taking this one 4-2 over Lakeview.
Lakeview pitched well to everyone except Mary Brandt. Mary Brandt hit 2 home runs in this game, and that was the difference. 4-2, Poland gets the win. I mean, when you have a girl that is able to hit 1 2-run home run and 1 solo shot, responsible for 3 out of the 4 runs that you score, the Lakeview pitched well against everybody else.
Last few years, I always feel like Mary Brandt's name is always tied to big time hits with that Poland team.
Already has a walk-off home run this year, and now, not a walk-off, but game-changing home runs in this big conference matchup.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's a tough day if you lose a game after hitting 2 ding-dongs, and they made sure that didn't happen there. You got Beaver Local going 13-0 over East Palestine. Garfield going to go 7-0 over Crestview. Jackson Milton 23-0 over Sebring. Western Reserve 7-1 over Lowellville. Western Reserve, I believe, remains undefeated. Canfield goes 6-4 over Boardman.
This one was interesting with Canfield Boardman. I thought that it was a little bit more higher scoring than I thought we expected from it. With Melina Toth in the circle and then Boardman with Tori Strides, I thought, this could be a game that's like 3-2, 2-3, 2-1. But no, both offenses did actually a pretty good job in making adjustments to pitchers they've seen plenty of times.
Big time conference win too for Canfield.
Another NE8 matchup here in South Range going 9-0 over Hubbard. Springfield 9-2 over Mineral Ridge. Waterloo falls to McDonald 3-2.
That was a walk-off in extras, by the way. McDonald wins it 8 on a walk-off base hit.
And McDonald has found ways to win a lot of those close games, it seems. Like a lot of teams have tested the Blue Devils, but Blue Devils have found ways to get wins down the stretch.
They've kept it exciting. I know as those scores come in, sometimes I have to double check because I'm like, there's no way that they're this close again. Like, give that poor coach a break.
Coach Titus is sitting there sweating the whole time.
Lisbon goes 17-2 over Latonia. Howland 20-0 over Mooney. And Mineral Ridge 2-0 over Springfield in a very close one there.
That was
we head on over
split
to
of the
Wednesday.
doubleheader. Mineral Ridge was able to split Springfield. That's a big win for them.
So Wednesday here, we're going to go Columbiana starting this one off. Columbiana 5-1 over United.
Round 2.
Yeah, round 2. And Columbiana, again, that one, this one a little bit more separated than the first one. Columbiana figuring it out there a little bit. Marlington 10, Salem 3. Hubbard goes 5-1 over South Range, and this is what I'm talking about in the NE8. It's back and forth. Everybody is beating up on each other, and it's great for us. It's wonderful for us because we love to call it. We love to see it. You love these highly competitive teams, but it's one of those things where you're like, man, are you guys beating up on each other so much
there was a loud cheer in Cortland when that score came in. I guarantee it.
The EBC is another conference like that too, where it seems like a lot of teams beating up on each other with that next score too. West Branch and Carrollton, a great matchup.
Yeah, and West Branch have been a very good team throughout this entire year. Winning another one, like you said, Ty, close one here, 3-2 over Carrollton. Jefferson going to fall to Girard here, 6-0. St. John going to get a win over Wyndham, and that NAC, I believe they're in the Stripes division. That's going to be an interesting one to watch because it's St. John and Matthews on a crash course for each other. Both of those teams, St. John has a rougher start playing teams like Geneva, who has absolutely been on fire this year. Jefferson has gotten some big wins, playing bigger schools. It's going to be interesting to see if that's going to help them because Matthews is pretty darn good this year too.
Matthews has definitely taken some roundhouse kicks to some of the YSN teams, unfortunately.
They most certainly have.
Not fun.
East Palestine going to get a ton of runs in this one, 19-3 over Southern. Lisbon goes 25-4 over Latonia. Western Reserve going to fall in a close one, in a high-scoring one, 11-10 to Waterloo. Oak Glen, 15-5 over Beaver Local. Struthers is going to get a win over Niles, 6-5, and another NE8, brain bashing out there. Those guys just, it's crazy because Niles is one of those teams that, and Struthers is the same way, that they haven't been talked about as a top team in the conference at all yet this year. And they're probably going to be out of the conference championship, but that doesn't mean you can overlook them because either one of those teams can beat you because they got good guys.
This is about the third time this year where Struthers has come back from a big deficit and won. They are the definition of cardiac cats. And they were able to come back here against Niles and walk it off with a 6-5 victory. So you can't count them out. You can't take off your foot off the brake if you're playing Struthers. They know how to come back on you.
A lot of well-coached teams in that NE8 conference as well, including Struthers too, with Mr. Tom Otto over there.
Oh, yeah. He's an autopilot.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got Canfield getting a big one over Cardinal Mooney, 9-0.
I was surprised at that score. Like this,
I was too. I thought that was going to be a lot closer, but Canfield is not one to be played with this year. As we head over to the softball side of things, it's Edgewood 12, Grand Valley 8. Jefferson 4, Girard
on those
2.
Falcons on the softball side, man. Sammy Speakman had a great game in this one, holding down that Girard offense that is really, really good. And Jefferson has 12 wins on the year.
Got some revenge too after falling in the game before too. So splitting that 2-gamer, that's big.
So here's another cool stat as the coach from Jefferson reaches out to me over the week and lets me know not only do they have 12 wins, they got 12 dingers. They got 12 ding-dongs, and they got 7 different hitters of home runs on that team. So you really have to pick your poison.
12 isn't a huge number for a team, but when it's spread out like that, that's the more impressive stat there. Because I would think you'd be hard-pressed to find the team, another team inside the YSN network that has 7 people that have hit a home run.
Yeah, you talk about a pitcher's nightmare. Like you got 7 out of the 9 that can hit a tank on you. Good luck. As we go over here, we're going to go to Salem, going to win this one 11-1 over Beaver Local. Canfield 12-0 over Crestview. Southern Local is going to win this one 14-2 over East Palestine. The PV Lakers have been on fire as of late as well. 15-0 winning that one over Fairport Harding. And I believe they sit on the top, undefeated in their conference, undefeated in their division in that NE8 Stars or Stripes, whichever one they're in.
Yeah, that's big wins too. South Range taking
Haley
it.
Alderman, by the way, for the Lakers, stud. Got a chance to see her live, stud.
As we go over to another NE8 matchup here, South Range 13-3 over Hubbard, and the Lady Raiders are
setting them up and knocking them down inside the NE8. That's what the Raiders are doing.
Yeah, they have really been very, very impressive this entire year. As we get to from one game that wasn't close to another game that's gonna be close in the NE8, and that's Lakeview and Poland. They, they're fighting on baseball fields, they're fighting on softball fields too. This one is going to be Lakeview coming out on top, 4-3 over Poland.
The game prior was Mary Brandt that hit a home run that changed the game. This time, with the game tied up, Haley Kappen from Lakeview was the one that hit a home run to give Lakeview the lead, and then they were able to secure it with great pitching from Ava Bacon. So 2 games where 2 different players hit game-changing home runs for each team.
And then you got Lisbon getting a big win, 26-4 over Latonia. Boardman goes 17-0 over Warren G. Western Reserve goes 14-7 over Waterloo. Ursuline and Gilmore Academy, which ended up being a really crazy game.
This was
2-1. Ursuline's getting the dub.
Senior night at YSU softball complex, and Ursuline goes into extras scoreless. Gilmore scores in the top of the 8th, and then Katie Koulianos comes up with a walk-off hit for Ursuline to send everybody home happy against Gilmore Academy, who I learned today moved up from Division 3 last year all the way up to Division 1 this year. So they must have got a big boost of girls in that school system.
Competitive balance. You got to think there's some transfers in there. You got Wadsworth 4, Hoban 2, and this is one that Ty was kind of hinting at earlier in the as we were going through this as one of the games where Hoban was going to take a loss.
It was just one of those games too where the Knights just couldn't come up with solid contact. And you got to credit to the pitching too, pitching to the spot, but a lot of the way that they were hitting it was just right into the ground, or liners right at infielders, or pop flies on the infield, and that's just called painting the corners and forcing weak contact. And it was just one of those days for the Knights where they really couldn't get much going on the offensive side, and Wadsworth scoring enough and great pitching and a great matchup, great win for the Grizzlies, no doubt.
Moving on over to Thursday, we're going to go Heartland Christian 13, Crestview 4. Heartland Christian right back on the winning trail for them as well. Jackson Milton goes 12-3 over Mineral Ridge. Lakeview gets a bigger win here, 4-2 over Ursuline. They said, we don't take our wins in just the NEA. We'll go out around and get another one here over a very, very good Ursuline team.
They're just kicking the doors down this year. I mean, we're here, deal with it.
When you're holding teams under 3 runs a game, man, it translates to a lot of victories, and Lakeview seems to do that. It seems like a lot of these scores that come in 3 runs or less is opposition to the Bulldogs.
Warren G. Harding is going to fall to Girard here, 7-4. Ed's Bess Mooney here, 5-4.
Now, Sam, you were telling me that this actually ended up being a forfeit later on, right? This is one that Mooney is going to get the win for.
Yes, and I am still trying to figure out why.
We were just reported that it was a forfeit. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's been reported that Mooney is actually going to get the win here for it by forfeit. I have no idea why, and I will not begin to think of why.
Don't go down that road. That's a dangerous path.
Talk about a point boost, though, as far as
you get points for it.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's a big help right there for sure. Howland goes 3-2 over Salem. West Branch gets a big win over Columbiana, 7-1. Grand Valley goes 20-6 over Conneaut. Cheney falls to Lisbon, 9-8. Warren, JFK, and Hoban, 3-1. Hoban And this almost seems like a David versus Goliath because Hoban's a big boy team, and Warren JFK, I think people forget, they're a Division 4.
The thing is, though, these are two 2021 state champion teams. I mean, Hoban won it in Division 2, I believe. JFK won it in Division 4, same year, same field. And I mean, these are two really good programs that have a lot of talents, still some remaining talent from that team, and a great matchup. And honestly, credit JFK for competing with one of the top teams inside of Division 1. And again, look to be dangerous inside Division 4. I would never count out those Eagles, man.
It's David versus Goliath, but David's got some big stones in his pocket.
David's been lifting for about 6 months or so prior to this matchup, so he's ready for it.
All right, moving on here. We got Springfield going 17-0 over Sebring. Crestview gets a win over Heartland in this one, 5-3. And we're going to go over to the softball side where this one, Jefferson continues their winning ways in a 6-0 win for a pretty darn good Edgewood team. Jackson Milton goes 11-10 over Mineral Ridge.
This game was bonkers.
I was going to say, I watched this game, man. I can't even imagine what it was like to be there.
How do we even explain it? Jackson Milton goes up 5-0. Mineral Ridge comes back, and it's 5-2. And Kelsey Dye, who is a freshman, hits her first career home run. It's a grand slam to give Mineral Ridge a 6-5 lead. They're up 10-6 going into the 7th. And Jackson Milton comes back and scores 5 runs in the top of the 7th to win that game. Eventually win that game 11-10. So it was just a tug of war back and forth. Who would make the last kind of punch? And unfortunately for Mineral Ridge, Jackson Milton made their last counter punch in the 7th inning.
I mean, how many times in your lifetime are you going to hit a grand slam? Your team scores 10 runs, and you're going to lose.
First career home run is your grand slam.
I'm sure there was a lot of dancing in the dugout after that win too, and from the Blue Jays.
Whether that's a win or a loss, I mean that's a moment that Kelsey Dye's gonna remember forever because it was a game-changing grand slam. It gave her team the lead, first career home run. Props to her. If she would have won, probably would have been on the starting 9.
Yeah, outstanding. Just incredible stuff. Moving on here, we're going to Columbiana 10-3 over Lisbon. Springfield goes 18-3 over Sebring. 11-6 is Waterloo over Lowellville. Lakeview Cortland is going to get a win over Howland 8-5. Crestview falls to LeBray 7-3. Boardman 7-5 over Field.
Big win for Boardman.
It's a great Field Falcons team too, as down here in Portage County. A lot of respect for that Field team as well, and they got a great softball team over there. No doubt. Got to see them a little bit at LaGrange too. They got a solid squad.
They beat Louisville earlier this year, so that's all you need to know about how good Field is.
Absolutely, no doubt.
And Springfield is going to go 19-4 over Sebring. In the look of time, as we are at that 45-minute marker, we're going to go over to Saturday and skip over.
Friday, a lot of games got rained out anyway. The only game that happened on Friday was Mr. Ty's Mr. Ty's biggest matchup of probably the whole year.
And
Champion versus Fitch.
It was two crazy lineups that were going against each other. Two phenomenal sophomore pitchers in Gabby Gradishar and Sydney Watts, and both of them delivered. But credit both these lineups; they both were able to get some big hits. Credit Gabby Gradishar too, cranking a 2-run jack off of Sydney Watts. Only the second home run allowed of the season too. She doesn't give up many of them because you can't. Not many people are able to catch up to them, but Gradishar is one of those bats too. Guys, 780 she was batting coming into that game. Who's batting just under 800? Like, it's unbelievable. 9 home runs, 28 RBIs, I believe was her line.
Now it's 11 because she hit one against Watts and she hit one on Saturday too. So it's 11 home runs, 33 RBI, batting in the 700s.
And one of my first times getting to see like the flashes this year too. And I mean, again, just so much respect for Coach Cheryl Weaver over there. Definitely a game changer in the sport of softball. A lot that she's done for the Valley, no doubt.
And want to just go over like just a broad view of Saturday so we can take a break and get our power rankings. I mean, obviously our teams went down to North Ridgeville and LaGrange in the softball side of things and had a pretty successful week down there. I mean, everyone got at least one win. South Range and Hoban, I think, split Champion got 2 wins. Canfield was only down there for 1 game. They got a win. Ursuline had a tough time, but they played really, really, really good teams down there at North Ridgeville. And then I think the other interesting thing about Saturday was the Howland tournament with Howland, West Branch, and Nordonia, where they all got West Branch and Howland both got wins over the Knights, and then played each other in a pretty good softball game, 4-0. Baseball side of things, I think the biggest win here is Hubbard beating Fitch 6-5. I mean, that's a big win for the Eagles in the Battle of the Birds.
The Falcon comeback came up just short in the 7-2, and credit Hubbard for being able to walk that tightrope and come out with the win too, because it's hard to stop that avalanche from forming once it starts, and they were able to do so for the win. The only matchup I was disappointed in, because things got switched around because of the rain. We were supposed to see Hoban's South Range on the softball field, and that was one I was really looking forward to. Unfortunately, not this time, but maybe sometime in the future we could.
First, it was Columbiana Hoban, and then Columbiana ended up playing Evergreen, and then it was Hoban South Range, and then that one also got switched around.
We had all kinds of good matchups there, but
we had to be thankful just that we got those games in, because it rained really hard the night before, and the field crews for both North Ridgeville at Victory Park and down there at LaGrange Community Park, where I know Keystone does a really good job hosting that, did a great job making sure that we were able to play games. You want to take a break, Sam?
Yeah, when we come back, folks, we're going to go Power 20. Strap 20, on your hats. 9. This one is going to be different. Starting 9 is going to be about what you think it should be. Power 20 is going to be wild this week. I can't wait. Bring it all. I want all the smoke. Bring it in here. Let's go to a break so I can hydrate.
Shopping for a vehicle online should be easy and worry-free. Introducing Merge from Greenwood Chevrolet, a completely new way to buy a car that combines the convenience of shopping online with the personal touch and expertise that Greenwood is known for. With Merge, shopping is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Choose a vehicle from our pre-owned inventory, build a deal that fits your needs, and finalize the deal with our online buying team. That's car buying in a new lane. Visit greenwoodchevrolet.com and let us go the extra mile for you.
News doesn't stop after the sun goes down. Sometimes you just have to hustle to get it. At 21 News, no matter how far it is, no matter what it takes to get there, we're working to bring you the best stories and the freshest content at 11 p.m. with the context and clarity that makes it worth staying up for, no matter what time it is. 21 News at 11 with me, Erin Simonek, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 11, news that's worth your time.
All right, we're back, and we're getting ready to go into the Power 20. Before we go into the Power 20, we're going to start off with the softball Power 20, but I want to start off with a disclaimer. Every week we explain this, and every week I'm going to keep explaining this, because every week on our Facebook, our YouTube, and anywhere where anybody can type and push.
Especially Instagram, we get moved.
There are questions.
Lit up.
How the computer works. Here is how the point system works. If you beat a team, for every win you get 1 point. For every loss you take, you lose 1 point. For every win your opponents that you have beat have, you get half a point. You're also going to get points for run rule games. So if you run rule somebody, you're getting 0.25 points. If you get run ruled, you lose 0.25 points. There's a division, I guess we'll call it a highlighter. Bonus in this one. If you beat a Division 1 team, you get an additional 4 points. If you beat a Division 3 team, you get or a Division 2 team, you get an additional 3 teams.
And so on.
All the way down where Division 4 is going to get you 1 point. So sometimes it's not always what you played or how you played, it's who you played and how they've played. That is responsible for some of the biggest jumps this week, because like in baseball, we haven't got there yet, but you have one team that beat a 10-win team and another team that ended the week by beating a 2-win team. The 10-win team got some extra points. That's how it's going to work out. And division, if you're beating Division 1 teams, you're getting more points. That's every single power ranking in the world. There is no power ranking that doesn't take in the strength of the opponent.
And you're also getting 1 extra point if you're leading your conference.
If you are in first place in your conference, you get an extra point there. It's all a point system. We don't choose this. The computer does. We feed it, it spits it out, and then we give it to you. With that being said, let's jump into this week's Power 20.
Softball will start there, and no changes in the top two. Fitch and Canfield, they're going to play each other Monday and Tuesday in the AAC.
Course.
And wow, something's going to be decided, not just power rankings, but AAC dominance also going to be decided. Both these teams care a lot more about the conference than they do our little power rankings. I guarantee you that. Champion makes their first debut into the top three as they're number 3 this year. Hoban is 4. South Range with a loss on Saturday drops a little bit to 5, but still, like Sam said, you can take these top 5 teams and they're all sitting at the same table. They might be, hopscotching and musical chairing a little bit every now and then, but these 5 teams, nothing better than that. Columbiana stays at 6. Edison is 7. Brookfield 8. Howland gets a really nice week. They actually make a jump to 9. Poland is 10. Jefferson 11. Lakeview 12, so you have 3 in the 8 teams right in a row there. Boardman 13, Pymatuning Valley 14. You have Mohawk from Pennsylvania down there at 15. Western Reserve, the only undefeated team outside of Fitch, is 16. LeBray is 17. Edgewood 18, United 19, and Springfield 20. And I'll tell you, the gap between 20, 21, and 22 was less than a point. It was very close trying to get into these power rankings.
And you know what? I think this just goes to show too, and I've said it before, the talent level in the AAC and we talked about it too, and you talked about it with Sydney Watts being in the AAC, but I've always said for these teams, it's either you have one of two choices of where you're going to go. You're either going to go down or you're going to go up. And these teams have all gotten better, and you see it right there. 4 teams in the top 15, 3 in the top 10 from the AAC. And it just goes to show it's still one of the better conferences, I think, in the area, despite it only being 5 teams. You got 4 powerhouse teams, I think, in there.
Listen, guys, I have never coached a softball game in my life. If you give me this top 5, you give me Fitch, Canfield, Champion, Hoban, and South Range, I'm telling you, I will Eric Spoelstra myself to a championship, baby.
Well, I mean, what do we, imagine if we're talking like a major league rule, if we're doing like a 162 game season, you got a 5 girl rotation, right? You got Watts, Toth, Gradishar, Porter, Stakowitz. Tell me a better starting 5 that you're getting, or a better pitching rotation of 5 pitchers in the area. That's incredible. And then even if you go into 6 and then and beyond that too, the pitching is ridiculous.
I mean, you look at the pitching, even okay, you got Columbia, they have Gamble, great pitcher, great numbers. Edison has Katie Fluharty, who's going to go and play in college. Brookfield has Marina Nicholson. Howland has Brooke Tater. Poland has Katie McDonald, who's a Division I pitcher. So you're going top 10. They all have next level, college level pitchers.
And you know what? This is a nice Power 20 because it actually, I like the representation. You get a little bit of every type of conference too. We're all the way up in Akron. We're all the way in PA with Mohawk too. So, I mean, we're a little bit of everywhere right now, but I think it's a wide range of talent. And I like this Power 20 too. It's a really honorable list too. You make this top 20, you see the pool we're selecting from, and it's a pretty big pool. So the computer selecting these 20 teams, that's quite an honor to be on this list, no doubt.
Before we go over to baseball, I'm going to ask each one of you guys this same question. I'll give my opinion first, and then I want you guys to give your opinion on it too. There's a lot of great teams on here, and we talk about big logos versus small logos. Are there any teams on here that you think have a potential to become a big logo before the tournament starts? I believe that South Range is going to become a big logo again, and I think Jefferson is going to be a top 5 team before this year ends.
I was going to say, can we take the top 5 out of the equation? Because they're kind of they've been interchangeable in the top.
They really have. They really have.
But someone that's outside of that kind of top, I think Columbiana has a chance. I mean, you look at their schedule this week. They played a big team on Saturday in Evergreen. They gave them a lot of points. They got Western Reserve, who's undefeated. That's going to give them a lot of points if they're able to beat them. And they still have to, play a couple of really good non-conference schedules. So although they play in the EOAC, which at times doesn't give you a lot of points because it's Division 4 teams and you don't get that division boost, there's still their last couple of non-conference games can give them the points if some of these teams slip. into that top 3. You know, either Canfield or Fitch are going to take some losses this week.
Yeah, well, that's a thing.
So-
Imagine if one team sweeps the other two, either way, Canfield or Fitch. Then you're a team like Hoban, who's still stuck at 4, even taking a couple of losses, is right there. And they always play a lot of D1 teams with 10 or more wins on the season typically. So if Hoban racks up some wins too, Hoban can absolutely slide into that top 3, I think.
Chris Sigler is not joking. I know we'll talk more about the tournament next week when baseball and softball are both out, but Division III in softball is a monster. It's just an absolute monster. Not just our district. Our district's really, really, really good. But even if you go outside our region, some of the teams that have dropped down from Division II into Division III in softball, it's gonna, whoever gets to the state championship out of Northeast Ohio, the region, they absolutely earn their way to Firestone Stadium.
Absolutely.
100%. All right, here it goes. The baseball top 20, as I take a deep breath, because I know this one is going to get some people going. Here it is, folks. The Power 20 baseball this week.
Look at that.
Widely different from last week. We have all kinds of jumps in this one. I do want to let you guys know when it comes to opponent wins, LeBray is unmatched. Almost 15 more wins total. 15 more win total on their opponent's wins than anybody else on the network right now. And oh, by the way, their 16 wins doesn't hurt their points either. So LeBray is going to be our number 1 team. Hoban made themselves a big logo again this week as they go number 2. You got Lakeview at number 3 as the Bulldogs have chomped their way to the top. Louisville at 4, Canfield at 5, South Range moving up to 6. You got Fitch at 7, Hubbard at 8, West Branch at 9, Garrettsville Garfield at 10, Edison at 11, Poland at 12, Ursuline holding tight at 13. You got Warren JFK at 14, McDonald at 15, Crestview at 16, Struthers at 17. At 18, Heartland Christian. 19 is Cardinal Mooney and Jackson Milton. Welcome to the show, Blue Jays, as they come in and round out the top 20. Before we get into this, there's one glaring argument that's going to be on this one that as I saw how the points kind of went through, I knew it was going to get brought up. Louisville did beat Hoban. Louisville did beat Hoban.
But Hoban, his computer thing's whole body of work, that's the beauty of it.
Hoban beat a 10-win Waynesdale team this week, whereas Louisville gets an impressive win over Massillon Perry. They only got 2 wins, and that was the difference. That's how close it is at the top. And the moment you keep worrying about them, there's this team in Cortland that will chomp you up because they're getting big wins too.
And we talked about it too, like your opponent's wins after you beat them really help you as well. Like Hubbard is getting a lot of points because Poland is getting a lot of points because they have a win over Hubbard, and Hubbard keeps winning. And
think of LeBray. LeBray has 2 wins over Hubbard on the season too.
So you get points even after you beat the team if the team keeps winning. So if you want to jump the power rankings, you have to root for the teams that you beat to win as much as possible after you beat them.
Yeah, it's an absolute. It really hurts. It really hurts your points when a team doesn't have any wins. If you get a win over teams that don't have any wins, and especially if you're in the same conference as that team, because then you're going to play that team a couple times. So
it's a benefactor of the schedule, though, really, because you look at LeBray, their next 2 games are against the Liberty team, who's looking for their first win of the season. But a team like Lakeview, they got 2 coming up with Hubbard, and that becomes a huge 2-game set now for both those teams.
And I just want to point out, because people might say, well, okay, then your toughest schedule is automatically going to make you a top 5 team no matter what you do. This is unfair. We can't control who we play. Not necessarily true. In softball, if we go back to those ones, the hardest schedule combined wins-wise is Boardman. And they're sitting at 13. So the hardest schedule does not necessarily mean that you're going to automatically be a top 5 team. It's what you do with that schedule that kind of determines that. So I was very interested. Boardman still has the hardest schedule when you think about wins and losses on opponents. And it's close with Fitch and Canfield. They all play almost the same teams. But Boardman's 13. So the toughest schedule of the Ysn family doesn't necessarily mean you are going to be a top 5 team.
And neither does your division placement. If you look at the makeup of this, there's a nice shakeout of Division 1, 2, and 3 teams in here. You know what I mean? There are Division 1 teams in here that are getting outpointed by teams 1 or 2 divisions lower than.
Well, La Brea is a Division 3 team. There you go. I mean, that's
so you know what I mean. So it kind of shows that it really is kind of taking in a lot, as many accurate stats as we can possibly get here. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, if you got somebody who's doing Game Changer, it definitely helps, because Game Changer seems to be the most accurate and up to date when it comes to schedules. We use as many things as we possibly can, all the verifiables, but this is what it is this week. Bring it on. I can't wait.
Props to the La Brea Vikings too. I mean, continuing a great season too, holding that top spot. Enjoy your place.
Like you said, Ty, they're bringing almost everybody back next year.
That's what I said. Their ceiling is still so high, I believe too. I don't even think they're touching their peak of what they can be, and they're already pretty darn good.
All right, so let's just hop right back into it, guys. We're going to go starting 9 this week on the softball side. So this week's softball starting 9 right here on the Diamond Roundup.
Oof, we have a lot of offense in this one, guys. The power came out to play this week. Mary Brandt starts us off at the 1 spot for Poland. 2 for 3, 2 home runs, 3 RBI, 2 runs scored in the 4-2 win over Lakeview. And I said it, those 2 home runs were really the difference, as they made up for 3 of the 4 runs that Poland was able to score in that win over Lakeview. Abby DeJoy for Brookfield, 3 for 4, 2 home runs in the day. She leads all of YSN, guys, in 12 home runs in the season, 5 RBI, 3 runs scored in a 13-3 win over Maplewood. She is chasing the Brookfield program home run record, which is sitting at 17, held by Bailey Drapola. So she's trying to get there. She's got a couple of games left, and then tournaments.
She's gonna be like Albert Pujols last year, and she's going for it. She's
gonna be close, guys. Lexi Spangler from Howland, 3 for 3, a home run, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored, 3 innings pitched, 7 Ks, no walks, 2 hits in a 20-0 win over Mooney. Bailey Alderman, someone that Sam knows pretty well, just an absolute beast in Pymatuning Valley. He went 3 for 4 with a home run, 7 RBIs. That's big number.
It's crazy.
2 runs scored in a 15-0 win over Fairport Harding. Boardman gets that big win over Warren Harding, and Maddie Weimer was a big reason why. 4 for 4, 3 RBI, 1 run scored in that 17-0 win over the Raiders. Chloe Fleps from Liberty, our second Liberty Leopard to be on the starting 9 this season. 3 for 4, 3 RBI, 3 runs scored in a 9-0 win over Newton Falls. Then we have Jenna Helko from McDonald. That walk-off single was her only hit, but it came in the big time. 3-2 win over Waterloo, the only game that McDonald was able to get in this week due to weather. How about Lily Marilillo from Mineral Ridge? Complete game, 5 inning. It was a 5-inning doubleheader, so that's why you see 5 innings but not a run rule. 5-inning doubleheader, so a 5-inning shutout against a really good Springfield offense. 2-0, they get the win over Springfield to split that doubleheader. And then last but not least, someone that Ty knows pretty dang well, Tina Montgomery went 1 for 3, but that one was a grand slam, 4 RBI in a 6-3 win over Champion. And it was a game-defining grand slam when you looked at it. When it happened, the momentum had turned, and if it wasn't for that grand slam, you take those 4 points away, you take those 4 runs away, and it's 3-2. 3-2 Champion gets that win without that grand slam. So Tina Montgomery comes up in a big way, and Fitch is able to get that big win over Champion.
I call Tina Montgomery
the cleaner, right?
Yeah, she's the cleaner, man. She cleans up the hot corner as far as defense is concerned, but she cleans up the bases as well when they're loaded. And the cleaner doing work once again, big time hit, and again out of the 8 spot. And what I said in the broadcast is Tina Montgomery might be a 3-hole hitter in a lot of lineups around the area, but she's batting 8th in this one, and that's just goes to show how deep that Fitch team is.
Not her first home run of the week though either, right? She hit another one against Harding, right?
She has 4 on the season, 20 RBI she has. She's the RBI leader for the Falcons right now. They've had, I think, I think 5 or 6 different players now that have all held the RBI lead at some point this season because they're all producing at equal pace.
What I think is even more impressive, she's not a freshman, but she is new to the varsity level. She's taking that third base spot that was held by Synodac last year, and really held down really well by Synodac.
The hot corners were 2 positions that were really question marks for Fitch, and Abby Toth and Tina Montgomery have locked them down. And freshman at first, sophomore at third, and boy, oh boy, the future is bright for Fitch.
All right, we're going to jump over into the starting 9 this week for baseball. And this week's starting 9, for baseball, we're going to start over in Girard with Jake Dowie. All he did was throw a no-hitter.
The Doe man.
Get 10 strikeouts with no walks in this one, 2-0 win over Jefferson.
Don't call him soft, even though his name's Dowie, man. That no-hitter is hard.
Ben Slanker over at Canfield. He goes 3 for 4, hits a goner, a triple, and a single. A double away from the cycle is Slanker. He's still going to end up with a ton of RBIs in that one, a 9-3 win. Mason Petritis from Fitch. He's going to go 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, no walks, no earned runs, 14 strikeouts, and a 4-3 win over Warren G. Harding.
You want to talk about Mason Petritis, too. I mean, he follows up his no-hitter with a 14 strikeout complete game, too. I mean, this kid, only a sophomore over there, and he's doing big things, no doubt, on the mountain.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. It's incredible. 14 strikeouts is ridiculous. AJ Verdi from Mohawk. He's going to go 3 for 4 with 5 RBIs, 1 run scored, and a 21-0 win over Beaver Falls. You got Ryan Carpenter from Lisbon going 4 for 5, 5 RBIs, 3 runs scored, in a 25-4 win over Latonia. Ryan Williams from St. John goes 2 for 3 with a double, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored in their 8-2 win over Warren G. Harding. Also pitching in that one and ends the game with 6 strikeouts. Reed Williams from West Branch goes 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored in a 4-1 win over Columbiana. You got Evan Tice from East Liverpool, 3 for 3, 2 RBIs, 1 run scored in a 5-3 win over Brook. And then Connor Morley from Louisville, 6.2 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts, but goes 2 for 3 from the plate, 1 RBI, 1 walk in a 3-0 win in a hotly contested game at Boardman.
Nice win, too, for the Leopards. And that Connor Morley, I mean, he comes up big on the mound as well. That's not the first time I've heard his name, too, and just shutting out opponents. And he does it always. He commands the strike zone so well. He's just one of those guys that just keeps on keeping on painting the corners.
You know, I know East Liverpool has had kind of a struggle season record-wise, but Evan Tice is one of the best catchers we have as well down there for the Potters. And great to see him get in the starting 9 with that performance against Brook.
That dude Evan Tice is just an athlete, man. That's all. He's all around.
There's double nickels too. So if you wear double nickels as a catcher, then you're doing something right.
So that's gonna be our week, guys. Before we let these folks go, there's a ton of great baseball and softball that's going to be on the network this week. Any games that are kind of sticking out to you guys that really you think are going to be great games, or they should tune into all of them. But which are some can't miss games this week?
Well, I know everyone's eyes are going to be on the Canfield Fitch games, baseball and softball, really, especially softball 1 and 2 in the power rankings, 1 and 2 in the AAC championship on the line. That's all great. All the eyes are going to be on there, but there are some other ones that I think are kind of under the radar. Western Reserve's undefeated right now, 13-0, the only undefeated team outside of Fitch in the softball diamond. And they have a big week, 2 against Springfield, and then they have Columbiana as well in a non-conference game. So if they get through this week undefeated, then we can officially say that Western Reserve is absolutely the real deal and deserving of that 1 seed in Division 4.
I mean, we got to look at this upcoming Wednesday too. South Range is going to Lakeview on the baseball diamond, and that's one I'm very interested to see. Can Lakeview get it done against one of the perennial powerhouses in the NE8 and one of those perennial powerhouses that's probably looking to upset a Lakeview Bulldog team?
Lakeview baseball can win the NE8 this week with wins over Hubbard and South Range. South Range softball can win the NE8 this week with 2 wins over Struthers and a win over Lakeview on Wednesday. So we could have 2 NE8 champions next week when we get together again.
And of course, Fitch can win their 4th consecutive with wins over Canfield, or Canfield can and turn the tides too, and that would be big wins for the Cards. A lot of conference championships on the line here in the last week of the season. One of the best times of the year before tournaments, man.
As it should be. Any big games up there in Ashtabula, Sam? I know those conferences are getting pretty thick too.
They're getting up here. I think, starting off tomorrow on the softball side, you've got Edgewood taking on Lakeside. It's a big time rivalry game. Edgewood is having a much better year than Lakeside so far, but that was the case on the baseball diamond as well. And it didn't go the way people thought it was going to go. There's nothing sweeter than kind of spoiling it. You know what I mean? For the crosstown rival there. I think one of the biggest ones I'm going to be keeping my eyes on this week is St. John and Grand Valley on Thursday on the softball side. I think is going to be a really good game. And another one I'm going to be watching on the baseball side. I don't think many people think it's going to be a close one, but Fitch comes up to Lakeside, and that's a game that's been rescheduled a couple times. And I'm really interested to see kind of how that goes, because it's a really good test of Lakeside as those Fitch boys come down and they're ready to play some baseball. So those are some of the games I know for sure I'm going to be looking at this week, and I think it's going to be a great game, a great week, weather permitting. Weather permitting that we got covered up this week.
And it's a perfect time to plug Storm Tracker 21 WFMJ. There's no better place to go if you're trying to watch the forecast for these games to see what it'll be like outside. Head over to our partners over at 21 WFMJ, Storm Tracker 21.
That's right. They can't control it, but they will tell you what it's going to be.
They'll tell you what's happening better than anybody. Remember, if it's over 21, it's a bust. So
that's all I got. Thanks. Anything else, guys, before we leave these folks until next week?
I mean, let's just everyone tune into softball, baseball, support these teams on the network as they get ready and geared up for tournament time, because there's a lot of big time games, a lot of conference championships on the line, and you get all of them for free as well, thanks in part to our sponsors. So tune in and make sure you get your fill of baseball and softball through the